I'm Cam Mather, and in my book Thriving During Challenging Times I talk a lot about our relationship of our diet and energy and how much our diet is dependent on cheap fossil fuels. And I have a large part of my diet focused on wheat products, pastas and breads. So last year I planted wheat. I planted it in the fall. This is winter wheat. I've harvested most of it, but this is just to give you an idea of some of the work that's involved with processing it. So I haven't bought myself a scythe yet. That's on the agenda, but right now I'm just cutting it with my clippers. And then stacking it in my wheelbarrow. And once I get enough of that, I process it over at the house. So as you can tell by my field here, or my wheat, this is organic. There's lots of weeds in it. And again, this was planted in the fall, so this is winter wheat that I'm now harvesting at the end of July. So once you get your wheat harvested from your garden, then you're left with the challenge of getting the wheat kernels off the stalks. And what I've got a couple of techniques. The first technique I use is to bang it against a garbage can. So I take my wheat stalks and I put them in my garbage can and I beat it. And what you're basically doing is separating all those little wheat beads or wheat berries from the stalks, and that's what that technique has done. And my second technique is to take some of those wheat heads and put them in a feed bag and put her down on the sidewalk. I try to sort of close the lip to keep the stuff in there. And this is great for taking out your frustrations on your boss, etc. If you don't keep it sealed up, it'll all come pounding out the end. So give it a shot. Seal it over. Keep pounding. And then by the time you're done, down at the bottom, you'll find most of it will be separated from the stalks. So after you're done threshing your wheat, you're going to be left with a combination of some individual wheat berries and then lots of the coating that you want to get rid of. Some people call it the chaff. So you want to separate that. Now, they used to do what was called winnowing, where you would use the wind, but I'm going to try and use a fan to help me out. So I'm going to put some of this into a bucket. And, of course, I live off the electricity grid, so this is a solar-powered fan. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to gradually pour one bucket into another and try and lose as much of that coating or chaff as I can. And the wheat berries are actually heavier, so they'll fall right through the fan. So that clicking sound you hear is the wheat berries falling through. You can see a lot of the chaff is being blown off as the berries are dropping, the heavier berries are dropping right on through. And of course, all this activity in the olden days would have been done by hand, but today it's all done by a combine. So as the wheat goes into the combine, this is all done and separated, and the heavier kernels fall down and through. And periodically, they're taken off and dumped into a wagon that drives along beside the combine. So after all your winnowing, this is what you're going to be left with. You're going to be left with a whole series of wheat grains or wheat berries, some of which still have the husks on them. I think when mine dries out a little bit more, some of these husks will fall out, and you can now take these wheat berries and process them through a grinder to make your bread. The one thing that growing my own wheat has taught me is a huge appreciation for how energy intensive growing wheat is and how much our diet is dependent on cheap oil. And as we're discovering with peak oil, the price of food is going to start going up because of the energy in things like combine harvesters that would have processed this all for us automatically is going to go up greatly. So growing your own wheat, as we talked about in the all-you-can-eat gardening handbook, anything that you grow yourself makes you more resilient to price increases, but also gives you a huge appreciation for some of these things like a loaf of bread, and how paying $2 for a loaf of bread, when you see how much work is involved just in growing the grain, is really quite a miracle and something for us all to be thankful for.